All right. Hello, I got my mic. I remember to actually enable it this time, so we will be in business here. And so one thing I want to do today is I'm not sure if it was last time or the time before, but somebody asked about what kind of deck Avenging Angel would be good in, and if it is good in general. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be making a deck with Avenging Angel, um, and then I'm probably going to end up playing it in Arena, since Arena, or actually, let me just finish the Arena. We still have one going, right? Yes, alright, so I'm going to finish this run with the burn deck, and then after that, I'll be uh, building a deck. I already have a prototype right here that uses Avenging Angel to its full potential. But in the meantime, we're just going to play some of this burn deck, so I'll just go back over to it so I can talk about what's in the deck. I guess I can just look at it right here. So this deck is the one that I've been playing last stream. So it is a mostly wild deck with a little bit of Sage. It runs Lessons Learned as a way to replay your events, and Wave Transformation because we don't have any way to really deal with anything in this deck uh, except for this. This is like our emergency panic button. And then we also have Feeding Frenzy here, which breaks a damaged champion. And then we run some direct damage and big champions just to kind of go down on our opponent. So that is what we're trying to do. We're running, this deck has 3 Fires of Rebellion, which deals 7 damage to each opponent. Hi, Gash. And 3 Flame Strikes, which deals 8 damage to a target. We'll usually use it on our opponent. So that is basically what we're doing with this deck. And we are going to see how far we're going to get with it. I think last time I thought I would get to 4 wins. So right now we're at 2. We're going to see if we can do that. Alright, I'm up against Jake Zim. Good evening. And one thing that I still am accepting challenges, so if you want to send me a challenge, feel free. After this, I am going to be making that constructed deck I was talking about, and then I'll be just playing games, basically. Maybe doing another arena if there's nobody doing anything. Let's see, so I think in your opening hand, you don't want Punishers. So Draka and Pyrosaur are what I would call Punishers because they have Blitz. So you want to play those when your opponent's gold is down. We can't really use them in our hand because I don't just want to play them in attack. So I'm going to mulligan those, and I'm also going to mulligan our 2 recycle cards. I could keep Amnesia because it has a draw 2 option, but I'm going to keep Feeding Frenzy, and I don't think I need 2 of those. So yeah, that's going to be the mulligans. We're just going to keep the Feeding Frenzy. Alright, this opening hand here is actually pretty bad. I would say this is probably one of the worst ones that I could have, so I'm just going to be passing. Basically, I don't want to play Fire Shaman in the same turn if I'm not getting any value out of the ally ability, so I'll definitely hold on to that. Then Go Wilds and Wolfspite here are both cards that have Recycle. Alright, they're going to surprise the heck out of Triceratops, so we are going to probably draw 2 first. And there's actually a good chance I'm going to take that out with Wolfspite plus Feeding Frenzy here. Let's see what we get. I think I am going to do that. It's a little inefficient card advantage wise, but I might actually have a hard time getting rid of this later, so I'm just going to do it right now. I'm not going to recycle. I'll use the Feeding Frenzy to break a damaged champion here. So we are behind in terms of card advantage. Basically, I just spent 2 cards on this one play that my opponent made that drew a card, but we don't want to be taking 10 over and over again. So yeah, gotta get rid of that ASAP. Breakthrough is a lot like, oh, that's not good. We can't get rid of this Muse because we spent our we spent our main way of dealing with small champions on Wolfspite here. can get rid of the Muse on our turn with Fire Shaman. So I would say that at this point in the game we're pretty far behind because they have 6 cards in hand, we have 4, and this Muse is something that does need to be dealt with. So it's a threat. I think if they attack, then I'll just take it. Mostly because I'm very hesitant to spend my gold first. It is true that it's difficult for our opponent to punish us, but I don't know what they're on, what their strategy is. I guess, the worst thing, they can't really play Sea Titan, they can't really play War Machine, so it'd actually be pretty hard for our opponent to punish us here. So I am going to surprise attack this out. Just because we don't have another champion in hand, and I will be revealing both. I don't want to risk it. I'm just going to get rid of the Muse right away here, just in case they have a way to get rid of our Strafing Dragon. I think normally spending your gold first, especially on your opponent's turn, is weak, but I tried to think about what plays my opponent could have that would really punish me for making this play, and I couldn't think of anything. Maybe Alara. So I'm just going to do it. Basically, what I'm getting at is this wolf token here. Usually the main downside to spending your gold first is that it's weak against a blitz champion, but we have a jump blocker, so we don't need to worry about that. Alright, so let's see here. I'm probably just going to have to draw 2 on my own turn. I don't really want to pass to my opponent with nothing to do on their turn, so what I would end up doing here is if I just passed on their turn, I'd be holding up Wave as my only real play, so I'm just going to draw 2 right away. And they're going to play Lurking Giant, which is a little scary for us, but it's not the end of the world. Let's see how far. Can I take 11? I think I can take 11. That'll just bring us down to 15, which is a dangerous place. Yeah, I drew out a weak Hurricane, exactly. Usually you don't want to Hurricane for no value on your own turn. There they used Hurricane to get rid of a wolf token and a Strafing Dragon. This spot is a little rough because basically I am probably going to be punished if I play this Wave of Transformation, but I can't really afford to just take 11, so I'm just going to play it to transform that. Here we're just playing this wave as a transform, so a lot of the time board waves, like Wave of Transformation, can be used as single target removal if they're the only thing in play. So basically what I'm getting at is Fire Shaman plus Pyrosaur will probably take out anything that they play here. Alright, they're going to play Ankylosaurus and draw a card. So honestly, I'm not sure that they're playing any punishers because we haven't been punished at all. And when I say punished, I mean basically some kind of play that has blitz that makes me sad. Alright, so I'm trying to decide about the surprise attack. I think what would we want to draw off the surprise attack? I think I'm just going to hold the surprise attack here and play this Pyrosaur, dealing 3 damage to the Ankylosaurus. And then it's very important that when you play your Pyrosaur, you just attack with it right away. Same with Draka, so that your opponent, if you pass to them, they can get rid of it before you get your attack triggering. So here, maybe I should have just go wilded there. But otherwise, I think we're in a good spot at this point. And they already knew about the Go Wild, so I revealed that. And then I think that the opponent gets a lot less information out of Surprise Attack than they do out of Hunting Raptors. Alright, yes, and we definitely should have Go Wilded there, but no big deal. We'll use our Go Wild at some point. I think we're only running 1 copy of it. Yeah, this is our only Go Wild in the deck. So if we're going to force our opponent to play around it, that's also fine. So we're definitely still behind, but I would actually say that we've recovered. Alright, and then they're going to pass to us. toss down a Brachiosaurus. They seem to be playing some kind of mostly mono. Oh, they're gonna. Alright, so one thing that is not obvious is if you use a zero cost card with a gold option to draw 2 cards, if you do that, you don't actually get to activate the ally ability because you're basically activating a power of your zero cost card. You're not playing a gold cost card. Just like if you activate a Pyromancer's 1 cost ability or you recall the card, you wouldn't activate the ally ability. So I am just going to play as Hunting Raptors, not using the surprise attack to ensure that I have loyalty, and that way I can take out this Worm Hatchling immediately. Now, there's actually a good chance we're going to attack with Hunting Raptors, which is a very rare sight, I think. But I'll see what we draw here. Alright, we got another Hunting Raptors. Yeah, I think well, I really just want to swing here. I think it makes the most sense, though, to just deal 4 and pass. The reason is, this Hunting Raptors is really only valuable if we have 2 other green cards in our hand. So if we use this Go Wild or this surprise attack, then we might just draw a Sage card. We don't have very many in the deck, but we could draw one of our I guess we have 2 lessons learned left, 1 wave transformation. Alright, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Interesting. Alright, so here it's kind of awkward because this is basically too big for us to just play this in attack. So I am going to probably just surprise attack here. There's not many things that I would miss on. It's pretty much just Amnesia and the 2 lessons learned. So I'm just going to surprise attack. Alright. Do that. Show both of these. And then I could actually play this Feeding Frenzy to take that out, but I'm not going to because I think we're going to need to use this to draw 2 cards. I'm just going to shoot them. And then we're going to take 7. That's fine. Go to 19. 19's pretty safe. Yeah. 19 is pretty safe. We might, if they're running this card though, they might be running random Blitz Champions. So this is a Punisher. I think you really want to use this card to get value out of the Tribute. Alright, they're going to play Brachiosaurus. And then Chomp? I don't know. Or maybe they're gonna. Usually, when someone spends their gold before attacking, it's because they want to. Maybe Dracos Fire, spend their gold before giving the opponent a chance to react. So usually, when someone plays Brachiosaurus, if they have a good attack, so I would consider this Great Horned Lizard to be a good attack. They could attack with that Great Horned Lizard. I have no real blocker to use, so I would just take the 7, or I would spend my gold first. So if they don't have a good play to follow up this Brachiosaurus, then it just makes sense to attack with the Great Horned Lizard first. But they might have something like another Great Horned Lizard, or something that buffs this, or gets rid of all of my champions. Yeah, so that's Chomp. Looks like they're playing some kind of dinosaur tribal deck. Now 9 is a lot, but it's not the end of the world. I'm going to draw 2 here. Alright, Kong's a good draw for us. I'm going to hold on to that Amnesia. I'm not going to play it right away. We might need to use this for the draw 2 side. But we are in a good spot, I would say. Take 9. Start our turn here. Alright. So I'm just going to deal 4 to them. And this Go Wild has sat in our hand for a long time. I think I definitely made a mistake not being able to use it earlier. I'm going to get rid of the Brachiosaurus because it's bigger. And also, this Kong is very nice against other Wild decks because it's such a big champion that it's very hard for Wild to get rid of it. So it'll be able to block most of their things. And we're in a spot where we could die to something like they play a burn card right now, and then they play a burn card on their turn, and then they play a burn card on our turn. It would be very difficult for that to happen, though. Alright, we're going to keep this Kong. If I standalone, so standalone, each player chooses a champion and you break the rest. I think this card is very niche, if that's the right way of saying it. Basically, I found the best shell for standalone is one where you're playing a lot of untargetable champions, so you have really big, important things that you don't want to break, but not many of them out. Or you could also play it with unbreakable champions, I guess. I don't think I've ever tried that. Alright, so here, yeah, I think that they're trying to do with the standalone is they're hoping that I would sacrifice this Kong here because the Hunting Raptors is really strong at dealing damage to them. But yeah, this Kong is just gonna wall most wild cards. And I think that's why if you're running heavy wild, it makes sense to splash a little bit of another color so that you can get ways to deal with big champions. Or you can do what I'm doing and just play some Feeding Frenzies. Try these ones. Break target damage champion. So you can synergize that with your chip damage. Alright, so here we're going to probably just draw 2. I am seeing if there's a way to get lethal here. What could we draw off the top that would do it? Need 7 damage? Because we are pretty close. So we could do it with basically Flame Strike or Lessons Learned. So 5 draws out of 43. Not very high. I'm just going to draw 2. Alright. Looks like they are leaving this up as a blocker. So when this Kong attacks, that'll probably block. Niche. Yeah. Niche. It's just I have this thing where I pronounce words weirdly. I'm not sure what it's about. Alright. So I'm not sure if there's anything I mean, if we draw Rage here, I would definitely want to play it. Or if I drew Feeding Frenzy, I would definitely want to play it. I think what I'm going to do is just Flame Spike that Force Mage Apprentice immediately, in case they're planning on using something like a Sage 1-cost card to prepare that and then block with it. I'm going to get rid of... We don't really have anything except for Lessons Learned, so I'll just get rid of 2 cards that won't get Lessons Learned. Alright. Let's see what happens with this attack here. Probably what I'm going to end up doing is just playing Raging T-Rex here. But maybe they'll do something really strange. And there's no way they can take this because they're at 14, so this will bring them down to 1. Alright, are they going to use a Chomp or something? Go Wilds, alright. So usually when my opponent does something like this play, this Go Wild play right here, my assumption is that they they're going to do something that causes this trade to happen, maybe even after combat. It's possible they're thinking about something like a Spike Trap right now. Alright, Rain of Fire. Sure. Alright. So I'm just going to play my Go Wild as well, because that way my Kong will survive. Although I'm suspecting that this game is not going to last much longer. Alright, we did get Lessons Learned, so there's nothing that would be relevant here. So I'm gonna let that happen, and then probably just play the Brachiosaurus and the Raging T-Rex. or maybe just the Raging T-Rex by itself. We have lethal with Fires of Rebellion and Lessons Learned. So I don't want it to look like I'm going to win right now. Basically, usually when you're killing your opponent with burn, you want to put them in a position where you can deal some amount of damage on their turn and on your turn, so that your opponent doesn't really get a chance to react. Because if I were to just deal 7 damage to them right now, and they had some kind of out in their deck, maybe Second Wind or something like that, they would know that they needed to go for that right now. Alright, well, we might be dead. We're going to see if we're dead. Dead to Flame Strike. That's pretty much it. Or, yeah, just Flame Strike, really. Alright, that's not Flame Strike. I think we got it. And there's Skaros. It's going to deal 1 or 2 damage to us. Alright, Skaros and Cave Troll, we're going to take 2 into all of our champions. Yeah. I have seen some people try and run Misguide Herald wild deck, so wild heavy, but they play Misguide Herald. I think that's also fine. Though I think this deck has such a high event density that I wouldn't want to run Misguide Herald. I think we would miss too often. Alright, so we're just going to play Fires of Rebellion, and then in our turn we'll Lessons Learned it back. So usually the way you want to set up your burn is so that the last hit is on your turn, because if they did have something here, if they had a bigger hand, then maybe they would have made a different play if they knew they were just going to be burned out. Alright, and that's the game. This deck will actually end games pretty quickly. Not necessarily in your favor, but they'll be fast. Alright, let's jump back in it. Yeah, the burn plan, yeah. This deck, I mean, a lot of burn decks aren't traditional burn decks where you are, where you're just flinging damage spell after damage spell at your opponent. You want some kind of threat, like a Raging T-Rex, so that way your opponent, you slow whatever your opponent's plan is down, they have to block it, they have to deal with it. In the meantime, you can fill in your in-between turns where you have something on the board, but you don't want to overextend with dealing direct damage to them. So here, probably just going to hold on to 1 Savage Uprising, but the rest of this hand looks pretty good. Usually I try not to keep 2 cards that are the same unless I have a really good reason, because usually you want a diverse hand. You want different cards in your hand so that you're not trapped into making the same play. So actually, what I'll do is if I have 2 cards in my hand, the same card, I'll actually often prioritize playing one of those cards that I have multiple copies of, just so that I don't put myself in a situation where I really only have 1 play to make. So here we could either play Brachiosaurus or just draw 2. I think I'm probably just going to draw 2. I'm not sure what we're up against. If we were up against a wild deck, then we definitely want to play the Brachiosaurus. Against something like Kark deck, we would not want to. And pretty much everything else we would. Maybe an evil heavy deck we would not want to. I'm just going to play it. I'm going to play Brachiosaurus and T-Rex here. And the 1 card, I'm just not going to show the Rage because it's the most relevant card for our opponent to play around. Even though it looks like we're going to be using it to draw 2. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, the 1 gold. So what's interesting is that in a game where you have a mana curve of some kind, usually a bigger hand just means you get to play more things every turn. In Epic, it's more about versatility. So when you have a big grip of 7 cards, then you can choose what you want to play. But you can't spend more than 1 gold. Alright, they're going to play Thought Plucker. We are going to discard probably the Savage Uprising. seems like the weakest card for this situation. Yeah. The real question is, do I Wolfspite that? And I think the answer is yes. I might be better off using the Flame Spike because, oh, I guess we'll use both. Alright, Flame Spike, Muse here. So, I'll talk about this. The other deck that I'm going to make here will probably have both of these cards in it, the Avenging Angel one. I think that what our opponent just did here is a misplay. I will almost never put down both Muse and Thought Plucker because it's very weak to Flash Fire, and also something like a Lightning Storm. So basically what you're doing is you're setting yourself up to get blown out if you put down multiple high value targets here that have a small amount of health. Alright, but we did lose a lot of cards. So if our opponent played something like Final Task, we would be in serious trouble. That's the main thing I'm worried about here. Pretty much anything aside from Final Task is perfectly fine. Even an Angel Death would be annoying, but we would be able to recover pretty well. Yeah, that's a bug. I thought it was fixed, but I guess it's going to be. Alright, so those cards, our opponent just cleared the board with Divine Judgment. That means we're going to be drawing 2 with Rage. They know about this Kong that we have. And we really need to draw 2 here. Any card that has draw 2 as an option. Even Savage Uprising will be fine. That is not that. This is a really awkward hand because we don't have an off-turn play. This is a really awkward hand. Alright. Probably just going to play Brachiosaurus and pass. And try and get our opponent to start their turn without calling our bluff. Are there patch notes? I'm not sure if there's patch notes by update. There are patch notes for each patch, but I don't know if there's an easy way to view those. If you're you could probably look at them. You could probably look at the version history on the Android store or on the iOS Apple Store, but I'm not sure about PC if there's a record on Steam. So usually, when my opponent plays Brachiosaurus and then passes, I have to do a lot of considering. So am I in a position where, what's the scariest thing they could do if they spend their gold? Most of the time I don't call their bluff, I just start my turn. But it does definitely depend a lot on what you have in your hand. So, for example, if they had Haste Retreat in their hand right now, this play makes perfect sense. I am just going to Kong that. Oh, they Divine Judgment. Yeah, well, I don't have any other play to make, so I am going to Kong this. It's Kong this or play nothing, so I'm going to Kong it. It's a bit sad because we're just going to, their turn's going to start, they're going to play Divine Judgment, and then we are just going to start our turn. But on the bright side, they're not really making any real play here. I guess I could also have done, maybe this would have been better. Scars, well, reveal my whole hand. That would not have been good. Alright, so probably they'll replay that Divine Judgment here, and then we are just going to have to start our turn without spinning our gold, which is very sad, and try and find a draw 2. One of the reasons I actually put 1 copy of Lash in this deck was so that we could recall it when there was nothing to spend our gold on. I'm just going to probably pretend like we don't have a play to make, a good play to make, and let them spend their gold here. Person does seem like they're aggressively playing cards on our turn. Alright, just going to start their turn. So usually decks like this that are running, this deck seems very, very greedy. So what I mean when I say greedy is cards like Muse, Thought Plucker, and Memory Spirit. I mean, Muse and Thought Plucker can usually be run safely. Yeah, see, Citadel Raven's very greedy. Because basically, when you play Citadel Raven, you get a lot of value if your opponent can't deal 3 damage. We're going to draw 2 here, because we can kill that for free with the Fire Shaman. The reason I drew 2 first was just in case I hit something that would get rid of it for free, or change our plan. Also, sometimes I like to spend my gold during my opponent's combat step if I want to force them to play any 0-cost cards before they pass to me, because if my opponent hasn't spent their gold yet and I end my turn, then I don't need to play my 0-cost cards, my 0-cost champions that I want to play that turn, because I'll kind of get those for free, if that makes sense. If I pass, they're going to spend their gold to do something, and then I can play my 0-cost champions after I have information from them. So I'm going to be drawing 2 here. We're just going to be playing a value game. So when you're playing against a control deck like this, you really want to grind them out. You want to force them to use their answers in bad ways. These decks actually usually have a hard time dealing with cards like Fire Shaman. Like this might be Drain Essence, for example. So we're going to have to play this slow. And what that means is basically that initial play that I made was absolutely terrible against this deck, where I just started with a Brachiosaurus T-Rex. I should have, if I knew I was just playing against this deck, I would have played the T-Rex by itself and drawn 2 cards, because a big part of this deck's game plan is they want to get a lot of value. And what I mean when I say value is they want to play cards that get rid of multiple targets. So they want to use things like Divine Judgment to hit not just Fire Shaman, but also other cards. Yeah, so if I was them here, I would definitely have played that Divine Judgment to draw 2 cards. Usually you want to spend your gold every turn. So yeah, this is actually a deck that, or Burn Can Shine. Now keep in mind we don't have any health gain at all. They probably are running a good amount of health gain, so whatever our health total is, it'll never go up. So in that sense, taking damage is something that we need to be a little bit careful about if this game is going to go long. Let's see. This Smash and Burn will probably give us a lot of value, since it will probably get rid of anything in their deck. We're going to play Force Mage Apprentice, probably get rid of our Fire Shaman and then pass to us. Maybe banish our discard pile. Alright, so what I'm going to do is start my turn. There's no reason to play something on their turn here, because I have another Fire Shaman. But I might even just play this Draka and attack, because if they want to do something like Drain Essence my Draka after I get value out of it by getting rid of their Force Mage, that's perfectly fine. So a big part of this matchup is going to be just forcing your opponent to make to use their answers really inefficiently. That's basically the goal, our goal, as the wild deck versus this control deck. So here, even if they get rid of this super efficiently, the best answer to this would be Drain Essence or Base. If they get rid of this super efficiently, then we still got value out of it by getting rid of their Force Mage Apprentice. Alright, they are going to play a race. It's perfectly fine. Yeah, it's actually somewhat reasonable for me to play Fire Shaman here. I'm somewhat hoarding my cards, so I can just play a massive Scaros. So this is Loyalty X, which means that I get to deal 1 damage for each card I reveal. So I would ideally like to reveal 7 cards, or 8, and just do a ton of damage to all of their champions. Alright, Shadow Imp is going to come down. Now, actually, I kind of just want to Strafing Dragon this. Let's see, what Sage cards would I be worried about in that deck? I'm just going to get rid of this right now, because this card is going to deal a lot of damage to us, and I have a very good answer here with Strafing Dragon, so I'm not going to play around it. I'm just going to get rid of it right now. Yeah, I'm actually going to use this to deal 6 to that, and then reveal 2 to do 5 to them. So they already know about Skaros and Draka. The reason that I'm being greedy here is because these slower decks tend to... This might be an Army of the Apocalypse deck. But assuming it's not an Army of the Apocalypse deck, then they're not going to be playing a real Punisher here. They might bounce this or something, or remove it and get some value. For a real time speed challenge? Yeah, absolutely. Although I think this match is going to go very long. I think we're going to go to time. Even though we're already at 18 minutes on both sides. That's my estimation. I'm expecting something here like a Drain Essence or a Banishment or a Forced Exile. Palace Guard, something like that. Alright, Sonic Assault to make us discard 2. That is perfectly fine. This is one of the reasons that we run cards like Amnesia, is because we don't want to get hit with those over and over again. So here, I'm just going to start my turn, probably discard Draka, and I guess I'll just Flame Spike them. I don't really want to get rid of Skaros. Lash, I also don't really want to discard. So yeah, I'm just going to Flame Spike them right now. And I'll keep this champion just in case they are in fact on the Army of the Apocalypse plan. Should do these two so I can lessons learn that wave transformation. Just doing this in case I find a better card to discard, and it looks like I did. I'd say that against this deck, probably Pyrosaur is more valuable than Draka. So I'm going to discard the Draka and the Skaros, I guess. Don't want to discard the Fire Shaman, since it's just so difficult for this deck to get rid of. No, doesn't actually seem like they're running anything with 4 health. I changed my mind. I'm just going to discard the Pyrosaur instead of the Draka. They will know that we have the Draka, which is somewhat of a downside, but... Oh, perfect. We got Amnesia. Just what I wanted. I'm going to vanish our discard pile, and let's... Probably won't need Wave of Transformation against this deck. I don't think we will. The chance that we need Wave Transformation against this deck is very low. So here, probably what will happen is they're going to spend their gold to get rid of the Strafing Dragon right away, and then we can just punish them with this Draka. If they decide to, I don't know, take the 6, then I'll just pass. There's no reason to overextend it into Divine Judgment, which they still have in their hand. But yes, Ranch Daddy. If you're still around after this match, I would love to play a game. Alright, looks like wave. So that's fine. They do have to answer this Draka that I'm going to counter back with. I don't really want to reveal Lash. I'm just going to reveal probably these two. It does somewhat tip our hand, but I might not actually play this Hunting Raptors. So, get in for 9. This is basically what you want to do. Is you just want to put your opponent in a tough situation. This is where these Blitz champions really come in handy. With your opponent being greedy, they're trying to play things like Medusa or Wave Transformation. Here, I really want this person to Wave Transformation my Strafing Dragon, because they're using their gold to downgrade my Strafing Dragon that already dealt 5 damage to them into a Wolf token, and they're spending their gold first, even when they know I have this Draka up. Anyway, and also the reason I revealed Hunting Raptors and Feeding Frenzy is because I'm definitely going to be playing one of these two cards. Looks like it's going to be Hunting Raptors. If they hadn't dealt with my board, but they spent their gold to do something else, I would have played the Feeding Frenzy to draw two. I think the Lash is more important to keep hidden. And then I'll just deal 4 damage to them. And so once my turn starts, I'm going to deal 4 damage to them again and then just pass. So that's a big part of this deck, unless I draw a Flame Strike, in which case we win. But assuming I don't draw Flame Strike, big part of this deck, and just playing against these types of decks in general, is there's no need to play it fast. You can just force your opponent to act, and then you can react. I mean, you're going to be the aggressor at the beginning. But once you have something in play, you don't need to always spend your gold first. So here, I just dealt 4 damage and then passed. So if Doherty spends their gold to do something, then it comes back to me, and I can play this Pyrosaur. And so at 11, this person's basically forced to just draw a card and start their turn. But they do need to take care of this Hunting Raptor, so they'll take 4 damage every turn. Alright, so Knight of Shadows is coming down. I definitely want to hold on to this Pyrosaur. It's a really good answer to that. So it's probably going to be Lash, actually, that I'm discarding out of these 3 cards, because I need this Feeding Frenzy, and I think Fire Shaman is more valuable than Lash. I'm assuming they're going to get rid of this Hunting Raptor somehow, or we just win when our turn starts, so that would also be fine. Basically, if our turn starts and we don't draw Lessons Learned or something, I mean, I can just draw 2 with this. Here, we can just play Fire Shaman Pyrosaur. That's 7 to them, and then we use Hunting Raptors. That's just lethal. So it looks like we will not be going to time unless they have a second wind for us here. Or consume. Alright. So shoot them. And we just play this to deal 7. Alright. And that is the game. So don't be afraid to use a different strategy when you're playing against a different deck. So playing against a slower deck like this is much different than playing against a faster deck like the Mirror, basically. Alright. Let's see, so we're currently at what? So we're currently at 4 wins. So yes, Ranch Daddy, if you'd like to send me a challenge, feel free. I'll probably go over that deck I was just talking about. Let's see. But and then I'll come back and see if you have a challenge. So I think it was in the last stream, but it might have been the stream before that, someone said that they were asking about Avenging Angel and what kind of deck Avenging Angel would be good in. So what I'm going to do here is I actually have a deck list that I wanted to highlight. Let me make sure I pull it up here. And I'm going to show you what a deck that uses Avenging Angel well looks like. So this deck is going to be similar to, I think one time I was playing against a deck that was all 4 colors, and I called it Rainbow Good Stuff. So this is going to be like that. We are going to be playing a 4-color deck. The reason is, Avenging Angel, in my opinion, is a card that you splash very frequently because it doesn't have any color requirements. So you can put this card in pretty much any deck as long as you're okay with running a couple of good cards, because it's a Punisher. So you put this in the type of deck that has a lot of off-turn plays that force your opponent to react because they're just so threatening if they're not dealt with. So I think for this deck, the base was Sage. So I am going to use a Sage base here. And what I'm going to do is put in off-turn cards that need to be dealt with. So what that means is we are going to be playing Thought Blockers in this deck. Thought Blocker is a card that if your opponent doesn't have 0-cost answer to, they're probably going to spend a gold to answer it when you attack with it. So after they spend their gold to deal with your Thought Blocker, that's the perfect time to plop down Avenging Angel, make that 12-point swing. Even if you are behind on the board, sometimes your opponent will be put in a bad spot. Maybe they don't have a good answer to this. Maybe they have to clear the board if they want to get rid of it. So on their turn, they just draw 2 and then pass back to you. That's really where you want to be with Avenging Angel. So let's see. This deck has, aside from that Thought Plucker, I think I was also running. Let's see. This was a Misguided Herald deck that used the discard pile. So Temporal Enforcer is another good example of a card that forces your opponent to react because it's unblockable. So I think the big theme of this deck was I was putting in unblockable champions, and it was important that basically you could play something that your opponent had to, even if they had lots of champions in play, they had to deal with it somehow. And so we're not actually going to worry about what the opponent has in their hand usually. In this game, it's going to be much less about card advantage and more about tempo. So when I say tempo, what I mean is directly affecting the board. So usually in these type of decks, this is going to be a deck that bounces the opponent's champions and just kind of ignores whether that gives them value. So if their opponent plays a T-Rex on turn 1, sometimes we're just going to follow that up with a Temporal Enforcer. Now they have 7 cards in hand, we have 4, but our turn starts and we can attack with Temporal Enforcer. And then are they just going to take 6 or are they going to get rid of it? So that's basically the dilemma that we're trying to put our opponent in. And we're just going to ignore, for the most part, our opponent's board. So in decks that ignore the opponent's board, Helion is a great choice because if the opponent has 2 champions, they'll attack you with 1 and you can block with the other by stealing it. We're also going to play some number of Ice Drakes. I usually don't like to run 3 because they're awkward in multiples. But what this card does is if your opponent has a lot of things out and they attack with 1, you can expend all of the other ones and then block it with the Ice Drake or something else. And let's see what else did I have in this list here. So I also was playing Veldin. So I actually really like Veldin. I've been trying out Veldin some more in various shells, but basically this card is a lot like a Frost Titan in that if you have enough cards to reveal, all of your opponent's champions can't block, but it puts them in their hand. So you really want to play this card in a deck that doesn't care so much about what your opponent has in their hand. So you are going to run that. And then I think because we had a lot of events, I'm also going to go ahead and toss Lessons Learned in here. Although really this could be anything. If you wanted to, you could try running something like Wave Transformation. I think in this deck I'm not even running any way to clear the board, I'm just forcing my opponent to do it. So sometimes you can just get away with forcing your opponent to do it. Alright, we're also going to run Force Mage Apprentice. It's just a solid card in decks like this that don't run very many ways to deal with small champions. So if you're a Splashing Sage, I probably wouldn't play Force Mage Apprentice, but if it's your main color, or if you are really struggling to deal with things like Muse and Thought Plucker, then Force Mage Apprentice is a really good card for your deck. And we are going to run value champions because we have so many small health champions. Sometimes it can be good to just have more copies of champions that are vulnerable. And I also really like Keeper of Secrets in these types of decks because if you have lots of Sage cards, this is going to recycle your card, so it's going to draw you a card as long as you just play it with another Sage play, but then you'll just keep drawing you cards, basically, if your opponent doesn't get rid of it. And in aggressive decks, they usually don't need Amnesia. They can just get away with something like Keeper of Secrets because you're not going to have the game go very long. And for that reason, we're just going to run something like Shadow Imp here. I think you could run Vanishing in this deck. This is the list I was running, and it's been pretty good so far. So if you wanted to try running Vanishing, you could. And I'm going to go over to Wilds here, and because I'm not really running any, I'm just kind of splashing various colors, I think that doing something like 2 Surprise Attacks and 1 Go Wilds. Now, the reason I chose Go Wilds here over something like Flash Fire or Flame Spike is because of the burst potential. So what we want to do is hit our opponent with one of these unblockable champions. We can make it bigger with Go Wilds so that it survives things like Drain Essence or we can use Go Wild on Avenging Angel so that we gain more health, or we can use it on Force Mage Apprentice and actually just attack with it multiple times. So lots of ways to use Go Wild in this deck. I'm not sure if we would be better off using something like Wolfspite, but I've really been enjoying Go Wild in this deck as a one-of. And then we're going to go back over to our good cards. And I do always recommend trying to fill out your ones and zeros. So even though it's not a hard form of removal, I think Inheritance of the Meek was the sweeper that I decided to slide in here. Was I wanted something that you could play off turn but didn't give my opponent anything in play. So I went with Inheritance of the Meek. Usually if the opponent has tokens, you can get rid of them with Helion, Force Mage Apprentice, and Veldin. So that'll be our plan if our opponent is on the token strategy. Alright, and then I also, this is just a 4-color good stuff deck, so in the evil category, I was playing Final Task, Drain Essence as the main culprits. And then I don't think I actually ran any other, I think maybe 2 Gudgeons. Yeah, and then I ran 2 Gudgeons, just for some card advantage. We don't have a lot of free draw twos in this deck, so if you're already running Misguide Herald, then Gudgeon's pretty safe in general. Because sometimes you just want to draw more cards instead of add something to the board. And then I played Guilt Demon here because it's just a good copy of a card that can attack aggressively. It can be your only thing on the board and just really annoy your opponent by eating their discard pile, or it can block a really random blitz attack like a Draka out of nowhere if you don't have a good answer in your hand. And also, it's just a clock. The 3 damage is not irrelevant. And then for some additional health gain, and just so that we have a way to deal with zombie apocalypse decks, I'm running 1 Heinous Feast. Basically, I don't think this card's a flex slot, so you probably could run whatever zero you wanted in evil here, but I decided to go with Heinous Feast. Plus, it helps shore up the fact that none of our other zeros draw 2 cards, so we will probably have some awkward hands with this deck every once in a while, but that's just the way that that is going to go for this. And then one nice synergy with Brave Squire here is it goes along just like Go Wild does with our evasive champions, but also we can put this on Avenging Angel, and a lot of decks don't really have an answer to just Avenging Angel Brave Squire. They just take 11 and you gain 11. So the highlight of this deck is Avenging Angel. I started with that, and I tried to build just around it. Wasn't really worrying about trying to make a certain color match, and so we're just going to call this no leaves, so I don't see too much of the deck. No worries. Yeah. Yeah, you know, the Avenging, I don't know, the Avenging Angel. It's not really very creative. I don't want to call it the Avengers, though. I feel like it's a little too on the nose. All right, the Avenging, we're just going to call it Avenging Angel. I'm just going to be as uncreative as possible. Not burn. Not burn. Perfect. Thing is, though, this not discard was about beating discard. This deck is not about beating burn. I think actually burn is going to be an okay matchup. It won't be perfect. You're really going to do well against the decks that are tuned to beat burn. So the slow wild decks. That'll be your best matchup here because your cards are so not value oriented, they're tempo oriented. You're removing stuff from the board, but your opponent has tons of cards in hand. So if they're just going full speed ahead, blitz champions, direct damage champions like Strafing Dragon, that kind of thing, then you're probably going to die. But if you're playing things like Kong and T-Rex, and they Kong your Temporal Enforcer, you can just kind of ignore that and bounce it to their hand and just keep hitting them with random unblockable champions. So it's going to be our game plan. I will say that of all the decks that I have played. This is going to be one of the meaner ones because one thing that it relies on is the fact that if your opponent's hand gets low, then they will have to choose whether they want to hold on to answers for your really aggressive threats like Avenging Angel, or whether they want to hold on to card draw. So you really just attack your opponent from all angles. And then we're going to try it out. Go all the way to the end here. Let's do it. Alright, the opponent's going first. So this hand is absolutely junk because we don't have an off-turn play that costs a gold. So I'm probably just going to mulligan the entire thing. It's usually what I do. I think keeping Guilt Demon could be reasonable, but the fact that I don't have even a way to spend my gold off-turn means that I'm just going to mulligan every single card here. Alright, this is fine. Alright. Now, one thing about Erase that's really powerful is that, and the same thing goes for Temporal Enforcer, you can return your own champion to your hand. And so, cards like Guilt Demon can be really strong just to play a Guilt Demon, attack your opponent, deal 3 damage, banish 2 cards, and then return to your hand. Alright, you're going to play Warrior Golem, refill 2, and probably attack. Alright, that's fine. Oh wait, what did they show? I wasn't... Crystal Golem and Ancient Chant. Alright. Probably what we're going to do... So this is a 100% an Army of the Apocalypse deck. They're going to try to fill up their yard with a bunch of champions and then play Army of the Apocalypse and return them all to play. So basically... we have to play around that a little bit. I think it actually makes sense to Drain Essence this. It's a little bit weird of a play, but a lot of these decks don't actually have, like I might get Juggernauted, but a lot of these decks don't actually have a good way to follow up. I mean, they do usually play Blitz Champions, but I mean, I could trade in something like a Shadow Imp or a Guilt Demon, but I really want to save this Guilt Demon to banish champions from the discard pile. And it doesn't really make sense to erase. I don't really want to take 4. Trading in Shadow Imp is fine. Let's just do that. Let's not spend our gold first. The fact that they don't get to recycle off of this is really relevant. If General Jip here spends their gold to do something right now, then I'll just Drain Essence that. Alright, so no recycle. So when this goes to the discard pile, I get to recycle, but alright, another Warrior Golem. Sure. Alright, so it's actually very unlikely they have a Punisher now because I only have 1 card that hasn't been shown. So I'm going to do this play. I'm going to play Guilt Demon and banish this. And then I'm going to block and erase my own Guilt Demon. This way we don't take any damage, and I don't think we're going to be punished. Alright, yep, just gonna draw 2 Ancient Chant, that's fine. We can actually get rid of that with Guilt Demon later on. We're gonna start our turn. Gudgeon, we are going to Gudgeon it up. Now the real question here is whether or not to play the Guilt Demon and get rid of this immediately. I'm not sure. And also whether or not to surprise attack here. I am going to surprise attack. So let's do that first. The reason I'm surprise attacking is because I don't have a good thing to surprise attack in my hand, so I just want to get the surprise attack out of my hand. So I am going to use... Well, yeah, I am going to use this Guilt Demon here. Just to eat this and then pass. I don't want them to keep recalling that. The reason I'm playing this and then passing is so that whatever they play here, I can then attack and banish. So probably what's going to happen is Jip's going to play Crystal Golem, and then I'll play Force Mage Apprentice, get rid of the Warrior Golem, and then attack and banish the Warrior Golem. Angel of the Gate. Alright. So we're not going to attack. Because then our thing would die. It's not worth attacking just to have our Guild Demon die here. So Angel of the Gate is a perfect example of a card that I am perfectly happy to bounce, or Drain Essence. So we know there is a, and this deck plays very greedily, so we're not going to try and, we're frequently not going to try and, alright, frequently not going to try and do something that, what's it called? That try and hold our gold for a really long time, because we just want to put our opponent on the back foot constantly. It's a different style than the other types of decks and playstyles I've been playing. So they gain control of our Guild Demon. We are going to return that to our hand with Temporal Enforcer at some point. I'm not going to block this. I want to try and prevent that Warrior Golem from recycling. I want to break it during a time where it won't get to recycle. This game is going to be somewhat about attrition, since we just have so much tools in our hand to fight the discard pile that's going to be our game plan. It's not going to be about bouncing these random zero-cost champions. That's not going to be effective. So this is unblockable. I'm just going to get him for 2 first. Let's see, probably what we're going to do is Keeper of Secrets into Temporal Enforcer, because we get to draw a card, recycle off the Keeper of Secrets. And I'd like to get this Guild Demon back right now. So I'm going to do this, Keeper of Secrets into Temporal Enforcer. Yes, recycle off the Keeper of Secrets. We're going to, because we have Lessons Learned in our deck, and because they're probably on the Army of the Apocalypse land, I'm going to leave the Shadow Imp and recycle away the Surprise Attack from Drain Essence, which I expect will be less useful than the Erase, especially if they're gaining control of our champions. I'll reveal both of these for Loyalty 2 to put the Guild Demon back in our hand. And then I'm going to go ahead and just banish that champion right now. And then pass. Our entire hand is 0 right now. Got a lot of 0 cards going on. And probably what will happen is when this Warrior Golem attacks, I will actually block with the Temporal Enforcer and go wild it, just so that we don't keep taking 4. But if I go wild into a different draw 2, then I'll Heinous Feast the discard pile to prevent the recycle. Because a 0-cost card that is better than your opponent doesn't draw card is great. Alright. Not Burn. It is in fact not Burn. I like that name. Let's see. Let's see if we can't find another 1-cost way to draw 2 cards. We did not find it. I can't really afford not to have a draw 2 in my hand. This is still good play, just not as good. Sure. take that back. No problem. Still their turn. Neither of us have spent our gold. Alright, we're gonna get Juggernauted. It's gonna come out and reveal 2 Sage cards to draw a card. And we just saw Shadow Imp and Force Mage, so we have less. Those have a much lower chance of showing up. Alright. So we could just return this to hand. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing here. So I'm going to play this Heinous Feast, just so that I have a card to recycle. Here. So we'll draw a card right now. And I'm going to play this Temporal Enforcer, and then we can recycle both of the cards in our discard pile, reveal both of these to return the Juggernaut to hand. And what's neat here is that they have 8, which is fine with us. They're just going to discard a card to maximum hand size. So that's kind of one of the fun things about playing a lot of bounce cards together, and also is that, well, or they can just Vanishing. But basically what I'm getting at is they can just keep playing that Juggernaut if they want to. We have efficient ways to deal with it. Just going to immediately banish that Vanishing, and then attack for 2 with this Gudgeon. Alright, and now we can take out that Warrior Golem without it being able to recycle. So I will do that right now. Take out that Warrior Golem, and then probably play this Thought Plucker. I mean, I could play Temporal Enforcer, return my Keeper of Secrets to hand. Not the worst play in the world either. But I kind of like doing this Thought Plucker play because it forces a discard. And we draw another card, so we can get more options. We are in a we're in a very good spot here, so this might be a little overkill, but I mean, it would just be hard for our opponent to really punish us for this play. I mean, I am double checking my, because I mean, just getting rid of that Misguide Herald for free, basically, it's very nice. Yeah. It's kind of iffy. I'm just gonna pass. Yeah, extreme value, exactly. Exactly. I did think about that a lot, but yeah, I'm not sure whether it was correct to play a card or not. I mean, we can just take 3. The fact that we're eating cards out of the discard pile is probably more relevant than damage, the most damage that we could deal. Now, one thing that this deck can do, which is kind of silly, is the opponent has no blockers. We could play this Brave Squire on our Force Mage Apprentice here, attack for 5, then play a Sage card, and then attack for 5 again. Alright, Helion's going to come out and get rid of our Gudgeon and that thing. That's not great, but we're just going to Drain Essence that right away. Because we don't want to have that happen again. And then probably just deploy my Guilt Demon here. Start getting rid of those. I like to be active in discard pile banishment, especially when it turns your opponent off of recycle. It's very strong to turn your opponent off of recycle. We just probably happen to be playing a deck which is very strong against their archetype, which is, I assume, some kind of discard pile shenanigans, given that all of these champions, except for Helion, are really good targets for Army of the Apocalypse. Alright, another Warrior Golem. It's fine, I'm just going to take the 4 here. No tricks this time. It's definitely not really worth doing anything about it. I could Thought Plucker and then Brave Squire the Thought Plucker. I don't think that's worth it. Alright. We're going to play this. recycle away two of our cards here. Probably going to be Drain Essence and Guilt Demon. Yeah, I think that's right. Reveal both of these to return that Juggernaut to their hand. Just keep having that Juggernaut back. Play that as much as you want. Then we're going to start our turn here. And I'm just going to immediately start by playing this Thought Plucker because I'm going to, let's see, banish this Misguided Herald, then play Thought Plucker right away because we get to recycle again. I really want to get that recycle value right away. Just going to keep on doing things like this. Yeah, for sure, yeah. I mean, I think that we're up against a deck which uses the discard pile much more aggressively, which is why I'm playing much more conservatively than I would with this deck. Basically, I'm really holding back on my cards that banish the discard pile so that I can just force every card in the discard pile to get banished at some point. Alright, this card's unblockable, so it can't be blocked. So that's the big theme of our deck, is everything's evasive or provides us with a lot of advantage for free. So they can't block the Temporal Enforcer. Probably just going to have to take 6. Looks like they're just going to draw 2. So I am going to have to discard the maximum hand size. Because I just have a lot of 0-cost cards anyway, I think I'm just going to play one of these Guilt Demons and eat 2 of those cards right there. Shut them off the discard pile again. Just in case that they're planning on Army of the Apocalypse next turn. Since that would be a good Army of the Apocalypse, it would be draw 2 plus put a Juggernaut into play, so it would just be a better version of Juggernaut. We do need to have some kind of single target discard if you're not, I mean, it could be mass discard, you could play Amnesias, but you need some way to target the discard if you're going to play a deck that makes the opponent discard a lot of cards. Which we do both by using cards like Thought Plucker and the other one, the 9/4, I forget the name of it, and also by returning things to their hand when they're at 7 cards so that they discard a maximum hand size. Now, alright, something strange is about to happen. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm not going to pull anything. I'm guessing that they're about to play something which returns all champions to their owner's hand, maybe? But I didn't really see many cards that would suggest that what the deck they're playing is that kind of deck. Alright, they're going to just con. That is perfectly fine. So, still none of our champions can actually be blocked here, so I'm just going to surprise deck out this Thought Plucker. I could just play the Thought Plucker if I want to return Guilt Demon to hand because of this ally ability. So I guess I'll do that. So this ally ability is really good in our deck. Whenever you play no Sage Guard, you get to return a 0-cost champion to its owner's hand. Instead of returning, you can use it to return your opponent's tokens, or you can use it to return your own and reuse your abilities on your own cards. Now, another synergy with this deck. This deck has to do all of the fun little silly things. Another synergy with this deck is if you final task, normally it would break at the end of the turn. So you can Brave Squire the champion you final tasked if you don't want it to break at the end of the turn, and then it just stays out. It's just amazing like that. Now, both of our champions here are unblockable. So our opponent's probably going to have to react first. Yep. So they don't just immediately discard a bunch. Alright. If you're looking for an answer to this Thought Plucker, which is perfectly reasonable, since it's going to be making them discard a lot of cards here. We've also had a lot of cards banished. Alright, Sea Titan and Second Wind. So they didn't have an answer to Thought Plucker, which tells me they don't have an answer to Guilt Demon. So I think I'm just going to run out this Guilt Demon and banish both of those right away. Just in case they have another Recycle in hand if they want to play. And then I'll attack for 6 this way. And we have 9, so we can pretty much just play a couple of cards here. I'm going to once again get rid of that Were Golem before it can recycle. And probably spend my gold here to just Final Task Thought Plucker to make them discard another 2 and have us draw another 2. Deliciously evil. Mwahaha. Alright. So when you Final Task this, the tribute's going to happen, and then also it's going to happen again when we hit them with it. So, and we're going to Brave Squire it so that it doesn't break at the end of turn. Alright. Discard yet another card. And then usually I just discard whatever the card I have in my hand that's a duplicate. So I'm just going to discard one of these Inheritances of the Meek. Do we Brave Squire it? Yeah, I Brave Squired it for a couple of reasons. I Brave Squired it because so that it stays in play, instead of it breaking at the end of turn to Final Task. But we also need something to block this Kong. So the Brave Squire will give us a human token for their turn to block the Kong. Since they definitely need to react to this board. Alright, they're going to Siren Song our human token. Oh, nope. I thought they were going to Siren Song the human token and then just attack with Kong. Looks like they're going to Siren Song that to play a Sage card so that they can use the Force Mage Apprentice right away. Sure. Now we can actually, alright, we can actually take back our Force Mage Apprentice by playing Temporal Enforcer on it. Now I don't need to activate a Sage Ally ability this turn, so I am going to do that. A surprise attack out this Temporal Enforcer, probably reveal both of these, maybe this Keeper of Secrets and Muse. Take back our Force Mage, and then I'll also go ahead and run out this Muse because if they jump through all those hoops to get rid of our Thought Plucker, that means they don't have a good answer to our Muse. All right, draw 2 here and go up to 9. And then our opponent is not going to be in a good spot. They have a Shadow Imp in hand, and they have 3 other cards. I'm just going to play this Force Mage here to get rid of that Force Mage Apprentice. Alright, I'm going to block with this human token. They might have a Rage or something. Looks like they do not. A lot of decks just run copies of Kong because they want to splash some other green card like Surprise Attack, and it's a value champion that can hit off from Misguided Herald or something similar. So I'm just going to get rid of this Force Mage right away so that they can't use it. They can't play a Sage card to reuse it. And I'll attack with this Guild Demon right away so that we can banish something, which will probably be the Sea Titan. Do we have Final Task in hand? No, we don't. And right now we have lethal, I think. 9, 10, 11, yeah. So we have lethal in play. So we're just going to attack with everything and force our opponent to do something. None of our champions can be blocked normally because these are both airborne and this is unblockable. So as it currently stands, all of our champions will get through, even if they play a Sage card to replay the Shadow Imp. I guess we don't even need to attack with Muse. If this gets through, we can just play a Sage card to prepare Force Mage Apprentice. Alright, Helion's going to come down here. Probably gain control of our Temporal Enforcer, so they don't die. So this is 2. Do I have lethal somehow? Final Task. That'd be 2, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can definitely deal 6. don't think we can do any better than 6. Yeah, I don't think we can do any. We're going to get in for 2 with this. I guess we could suicide these keepers in. One of them will get through. And then we win. So I'll just do that. Oh, you know what? That's a bad idea. I just realized that that there's a Shadow Imp in their hand. Oh well, it's fine. Oh, they're just going to take it. Alright, then that means we win. We're going to Lessons Learned, Final Task their Force Mage Apprentice. Preparing our Force Mage Apprentice. Doesn't matter what we recycle. And then we have lethal here. Good game. Oh, am I frozen? Alright, was I frozen for a while? Alright, anyway. Good game, General Jip. There's the Avenging Angel. Yeah, I mean, there was no Avenging Angel the whole game. We didn't draw it. But that's a deck that imagine if when we attacked with Temporal Enforcer or Thought Plucker and our opponent immediately spent their gold, then we had Avenging Angel and we could just slam it down and their Kong can't even attack us. I mean, Final Task, Helion, and Veldin all emulate the same role. Even cards like Guilt Demon, which are 0 cost but continually just annoy our opponent, do the same thing, basically. But yeah, so I'm going to be calling the stream here. I'll add that to the deck lists here. We'll call that one Avenging or something like that. But otherwise, good games, and I will be back on Wednesday.